Hey everyone! Welcome to the third video in my Learn to Hardswap series. So far, we've covered weapon and talisman swaps, and today we will cover the final category, armor swaps. Let's cut to the chase and kick things off immediately. Armor swaps are a bit of a tricky subject. The problem is, in invasions, their turns are relatively small compared to their talisman and weapon counterparts. See, in Elden Ring, all armor pieces provide you with 4 basic functions. 1. Damage negation. 2. Status resistance. 3. Passive poise. And 4. Somehow special effects like increasing your stats. For most co-opers and invaders, regardless of their skill, fashion plays a huge role in deciding which armor to wear. That doesn't mean you should go running around in full bullgoats. Have some self-respect. So should you reject poise and embrace fashion, or should you bulk up and forego the drip? The answer is honestly up to you. In an invasion setting, almost anything can work. Yes, while it's true that optimal armor sets exist, these sets are generally min-maxed to hit some sort of benchmark, while trying to maintain a favorable equip load to weight ratio. But whether it's Chase the Bro, Steelovsky, your run-of-the-mill Kevin, or an avid cosplayer, we all like to wear our signature armor pieces, and there's nothing wrong with that. Keeping that in mind, there's only one real armor swap I'd recommend that is consistently worth the effort. The rest is icing on the cake. If you remember from the last video, I said that the most important talisman for an invader is the Crimson Seed talisman because it boosts the potency of your Estus Flask. Luckily, 2 armor pieces, the Crimson Tear Scarab and the Guardian Garb Full Bloom, can stack with the Crimson Seed talisman to boost the amount of HP that your red flask heals you. Here's a series of examples demonstrating how effective it can be. The best invaders always use this combination of talisman and armor swaps to increase their survivability. Before we move on, please be sure to leave a like, comment, and subscribe. And also check out some of my previous videos in the series. Now that we've gotten that out of the way, what if you're a bit more serious about Elden Ring PVP and say a little more sweaty? Well, luckily, this is where the real fun begins. Aside from the flask boosting swap, there are 4 other armor swaps that I keep for every invasion character that I build. A 109 Poise set, a high sleep and madness resistance set, a high pierce damage negation set, and a light roll set, crafted so that I can light roll while wielding dual spears. It's well known that with 109 Poise, you can tank a hit from an offhand thrusting sword. But did you know that with it, you can also tank 2 full shots from Bestial Sling and up to 8 projectiles from Star Shower without getting staggered? These 2 cost-efficient spells are constantly spammed in invasions, so it's especially useful as a countermeasure when facing off against a mage. The next is an armor set with a high focus stat, since that determines your sleep and madness resistance. Assuming a base mind of 10, my usual armor set has a focus value of 267, which is average, but my dedicated swap has a focus value of 371, which is nearly a 40% increase. Throw on the clarifying Horn Charm +1, and it skyrockets to a value of 511, which is a whopping 90% increase. I use a combination of the Lionel's set and the Bullgoat Gauntlets because it nets me 116 poise, which invalidates PSGS vortexes. This combo also provides some of the highest pierce damage negation in the game. Finally, the light roll set is when I'm facing off against players with high latency. Normally, I don't condone light roll, but it could be a necessary evil to get away from vicious and latent gank squads. Speaking of which, as Elden Ring continues to age, you'll inevitably face more and more gank squads who are likely to spam madness, sleep, and dual spears. Depending on the situation, you can don one of these armor sets and try to alleviate the pressure. Now that we went over what we should include in our inventory, let's switch gears and look at how to organize it. Out of the 4 types of armors, helmets have the majority of special effects. Ultimately, they will end up being what you swap around the most. The Mushroom Crown, your flavor of Imp Head, and the Crimson Scarab Helm, among others, are important situationally, so it's only natural that all your swaps are centered around that helmet slot. Now pay attention, this is important. As you click into the menu, see how your mouse is hovering over the 3rd row? Keep your main armor set there. I know it may sound counterintuitive at first, but it ties into what I said earlier about the Estus boost swap. You won't attempt that swap while being pressured by an opponent, right? Instead, it's best to do it after you've created some distance. That means speed isn't important going into that swap. However, it's important coming out of it. Likely, by the time you've healed, your opponents are rushing you down, so you need to quickly swap back to your main armor set. Otherwise, you're in a vulnerable position. The rest of the sets can be placed wherever you feel is comfortable. For me, it's in this layout. Also remember that you can cycle through the armor slots using X and Z to go forwards and backwards without having to exit the menu. Now you might be wondering why I carry so many duplicate sets of armor. Well, it's to give me a cushion as I'm swapping, because the area that I click on is larger. Overall, we have fewer total swaps in the armor section compared to weapons and talismans, so we can afford to make use of the extra real estate. The last tip I want to give is if you're poise stacking to reach a certain breakpoint, do yourself a favor and keep the entire set within the same spot like so. The last thing you want to try to do is mix and match different armor pieces on the fly because you forgot which armor combo was required to get your desired poise value. Keep the process simple and consistent. This wraps up the 3-part series on how to hard swap with KBM as an invader. However, this isn't the end of our journey. I plan on making follow-up videos covering the overall menu system of Elden Ring, hard swaps for duelists, and other more advanced tips and tricks. So stay tuned for that in the future. Finally, a big shout out to 4K, Mugen, Mantis, and Poise for helping out with this video. I've linked some of their content in the description, so please be sure to support them. I hope you've all enjoyed the series and learned something that you can apply to your own gameplay. As always, happy hunting, my fellow bad red men.